All of these are tests. All of these are tests. It's not that wealth is bad either. Wealth can be good too. And it's not that poverty can be good too. The thing that we can say definitively about them is both of them are a test. To test whether we truly believe or not. When we get wealth, do we misuse it? Do we overspend? Do we not care? We feel like, oh, I can make a lot of money, I'm very qualified. You're not qualified at all. There are people much more qualified than you that can't get a job, right? And if you run a successful business, there are people that are much more skilled than you at running failed. It's not because of your skill, and it's not because of your resume, it's not because of your degree. It's because Allah is providing you. And when He wants, He doesn't provide. He could take an economic system that is like, you couldn't imagine it crashing in the way that it did. It wouldn't fathom. If you said it the day before, if you would say it to someone, or the months before, if you say it before the housing crash, oh, I think everything's going to pop. This whole system's going to pop. The stock market's going to be in the 6,000s. What are you, crazy? That's not going to happen for 50 years. That's never going to happen. You're insane. You're a conspiracy theorist. SubhanAllah. How Allah turns the face of the world around in just the blink of an eye, letting us know that it's not us that ensure our provision, that it is He who's in charge. There's Wallahu ghalibun ala amrina. He's dominant over our affairs. To briefly answer your question, inshallah now, this idea of, what reason do I have to turn back to Allah? Actually, perhaps Allah took some worldly things away from you, so you learn to rely more on Allah. What is a slave to do but to rely on Allah? We're the continuation of the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The essential teaching he has is, he relies only on Allah. He calls on only Allah. He doesn't even say, I feed myself. He says, He feeds me. He gives me to drink. He guides me. Huwa yut'imuni wa yasqini. Right? He gives me life, He'll give me death. So there's a complete, absolute reliance on Allah in the most impossible situations. I mean, I have kids, right? If I leave them at the mall or at the school, right, and I forget to pick them up and I'm a half hour late or something, then my wife would go crazy. Oh my God, where are the kids? What's going on? Where does he leave his wife and kid? In a desert. Absolute death. And he's walking away. Why? What's he relying on? Water to come out of nowhere? No, he's relying on Allah. He's relying on Allah. That's his only reliance. Nothing else. So this is really, Allah puts us through these tests so we can show our reliance on Him, and then He opens doors that you couldn't even imagine. And we have to have good expectations from Allah. This is what makes the Muslim different from other people. We never expect bad from God. أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي. Allah says in the hadith, He said in the hadith Qudsi, He says, I am as my slave assumes I am. If you expect Allah to keep you healthy, you will stay healthy by Allah's permission. If you expect Allah to provide you, He will provide you. If you have good hopes in Allah, don't have bad hopes in Allah, because then Allah will make your bad hopes come true too. Because that's what you wanted. That's what you asked for. That's what you expected. So all of us should have good expectation from Allah. The most thing we ask Allah for is to remain on guidance and to remain patient with whatever He sends our way, and to give us strength to bear through those tests. May Allah let us pass all of our tests, inshallah ta'ala. I listen to lots of hip-hop and watch MTV Cribs. Hey, MTV Cribs. Just talked about that. I can't seem to focus on getting close to God. What's your advice? Stop watching MTV Cribs and don't listen to hip-hop. It's probably a good start. Okay, I don't have bias against any particular culture or genre of music, etc., etc. Though I have, strong objections to music per se, though there's some scholarly discussion about it. But I will show you what I'm convinced of. I think nowadays music is probably one of the easiest means to lose your moral sense. Music is audio pornography today. That's what it is. It's explicit, it's shameless, it's vulgar, it takes your sense of humanity away from you, it makes you look at women as objects, worse than animals. And these people are talking about women like they're talking about, an animal, really. It objectifies women, and especially I've noticed a lot of the brothers that I know of, Muslims, that are really into the hip-hop scene, and they're kind of doing the hifz of the song, right? They're memorizing the song, and they're really good at reciting it with perfect tajweed too, right? And so they do that, and it's just horrible language, horrible, horrific language. The only simple response I have to that, if you have any regard for the book of Allah, that you really think it's from Allah, بِئْسَ الْإِسْمُ الْفُسُوقُ بَعْدَ الْإِيمَانِ. Even the name, the mention, the word for something bad is terrible once you have faith. Even the mention of something terrible is horrible for you, it's harmful for you after you have faith. You have to have a clean tongue. You have to say what you, قُلْ لِعِبَادِي يَقُولْ الَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Tell my slaves to say that which is the best. Say what is the best. Say good things from your mouth. So this is the first thing. When you say horrible things, and you say things that are in direct contradiction to the moral gauge Allah gifted us with, then obviously you're deviating from your natural fitrah, your predisposition to turn to Allah. And when you constantly listen to garbage like that, then you get deviated. And you don't find pleasure except in disobedience to Allah. And that's a sign of a sick heart. So one has to distance themselves from this. This is the first step. And I'll tell you, this is my personal measure. This is not a fatwa. It's my personal analysis. You don't have to take it. But if a person finds listening to the Qur'an annoying, after they've been listening to hip-hop and this and that for a long time, and as soon as somebody puts the Qur'an on in the car, you know what to say? Oh man, turn that off, man. I don't want to, I just want to talk. And they immediately, they get a little annoyed when they hear the Qur'an. That actually means the shayateen have taken over. And they're constantly making waswas out of this person. Because what do the shayateen hate the most? They hate the Qur'an. They hate the word of Allah. They flee, it hurts them. So you know what they do? Because this person has let the shayateen, the devils, into his heart, they start pinching at his heart when he hears Qur'an, and he says, I don't want to hear this. Right? It's like surgery, it's like pulling a tooth for this person. This happens. When you try to give this person a reminder from Allah's word, they get annoyed by it, like agitated, like an allergic reaction. Why? Because they've let the shayateen in. To let them out, the first thing you got to do is stop supplying them with fuel. This is fuel. This useless wasting of time, this is fuel for shaitan. They love that you waste your time. They love it. Because the one asset, the one piece of wealth Allah gave every human being is time. And what is music and TV and YouTube and Facebook and MySpace and like Twitter and whatever else? If you're spending hours and hours and hours on this stuff, what is it except destroying your time? It's taking that one asset away from you. Shaitan would love nothing more. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the strength to get away from these temptations. My advice that I keep going over, I can't get enough of giving this advice, find better friends. Find company that is not into these things and try to spend more time with them, and inshallah you'll wean yourself off of these habits. Bi'idhnillah. Hi, can you give me advice? I'm a new Muslim, but I can't seem to pray 5 times a day. It's because it's been a year now, but does God really even care if I pray 5 times as long? Two things here. There are actually 2 statements which are 2 different problems in the question. The first problem is, Bismillah salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. The first problem is, I can't pray 5 times a day. I can't do it. Now, I don't believe you. Whoever said I can't do it, I don't believe you. You know why? Because I believe Allah. And now I didn't say I believe in Allah. I said I believe Allah. There's a difference, right? I believe in Allah means I believe Allah exists. I believe in Him. But when I say I believe Allah, it means I believe what He says. He says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not burden anyone except unless they are able to carry that burden. This is what Allah said. Allah said He does not burden anyone with any responsibility unless they are capable of living up to that burden. This is what He said. You're saying you're not able to live up to a responsibility that Allah gave you. Isn't that true? You're saying I can't pray 5 times. It's too much. And Allah is saying yes you can. So I have a choice between believing you and believing Allah. And perhaps if you didn't realize this, maybe you're lying to yourself. Maybe you've convinced yourself because of your laziness, because of your lack of will, that you don't want to pray 5 times. Maybe you have to, I can't judge you. I don't know what the problem is. But the problem, maybe you're ashamed to pray in front of non-Muslims. People can take 15-minute cigarette breaks at work, right? They can take a break and just go hang out, do whatever. You can't pray 5 times a day. SubhanAllah. In this part of the world, where I used to, when I used to work in New York City, I would see Muslims praying all over the place. In the middle of 5th Avenue, on the curb, the guy is making salah because it's time. Or in the university, you open the copy machine room in the library, and there's like 3 guys praying right there, making salah. Muslims will pray. If there's time, we're going to pray. That's it. We're going to pray. So there are no excuses. That would be the cops. I'm going to stop? All right. Okay. So that's the first thing. Allah said you can. If Allah gave this burden upon you, and He did in fact, then you can. Convince yourself of that. And rely on Allah, He'll make it easy for you. The second question is, does He really care? Does He even care if I pray or not? Now this question is actually more about, does He need my prayer or not? You're forgetting that the prayer isn't for Allah. It's for you. It's not for Allah. If all the people in the world, all they did with their life was pray to Allah, it would not make Him any richer. It wouldn't add to His kingdom because He already owns all of kingdom. And if no one mentioned Allah ever again, it doesn't diminish His dominion, His kingdom, His glory in any way. He doesn't need us. We need Him. We need Him. So the question is, do you feel like you need to pray? Do you feel like that's a need in your life? And if it's not, if you feel you're free of, begging Allah for His help, turning to Allah and submitting before His commandments, then that's a serious problem with your faith. It's become weak, and this question only came up because you've been distanced from Allah for so long that shaitan can come to you and say, yeah, I know you used to feel bad about not praying, let's just get rid of that bad feeling and replace it with, well, why do I have to pray anyway? That's the next phase of that disease. The first part was, at least it was diagnosed, but at least you had some bad feeling. Guilt was still there. That's a gift from Allah. When that guilt even goes away and you say, Allah doesn't need my prayer, it's all good. So long as I'm doing good. And that's the last part I want to talk about, this so long as I'm doing good part. Who defines what's good? There are two kinds of good in this world. Please remember this, okay? There are two kinds of good. There's ethical good. I'm good to my neighbor. I'm honest at work. I'm nice to people. I don't steal. I don't cheat. These are ethics, basic ethics, right? That everybody, I tell the truth. I'm honest. I pay my taxes, blah, blah, blah. These are ethical truths, okay? And I'm honest in business. Then there are religious goods. I go to Hajj. I give zakat. I pray 5 times a day. I fast in the month of Ramadan. These aren't ethical realities. These are religious goods. Good deeds that are religious and good deeds that are ethical, moral in nature. What happens a lot of times with Muslims and with non-Muslims, especially it happens with Muslims, is that we make a distinction between these two things. So in the Muslim world, you will find people that are morally good. They're nice to their family, they take care of their kids, they're responsible in the household, they're nice to their neighbors, they're honest at work. Good people, but guess what? No religion. I don't need religion to be good, is what they say. And on the other extreme, you have people that pray, go to Hajj, give zakah, have a long beard, dress in a very religious garment, and yet terrible to their family, cheating people in business, highly immoral and unethical. So what's happened is we have separated the two dimensions of goodness. Moral goodness, ethical goodness, and religious goodness. What Allah does in the Qur'an is, fuses them together in the ayah, this one ayah, it's called Ayatul Bir, the ayah of goodness. What does it mean to be good? If you study that ayah, it is a combination of two things. It's a combination of ethical principles like fulfilling your promises, being patient, perseverant, and also religious goodness, establishing the prayer, giving the zakah, right? So it's a combination of both of those things in one place. So if you think you are in a position to define what good is, most likely you're sticking to moral goodness. And you're undermining religious goodness, like the rituals that Allah taught us. But what Allah wants is for us to have both at the same time. This is when a person is truly good. Otherwise, you're not really good. You have defined goodness for yourself and you have rejected Allah's definition of it. But we turn to Allah for guidance because we can't define things for ourselves. We want Him to define them for us. Inshallah ta'ala. Okay, last one. Alhamdulillah. How can I get my wife to take hijab serious? It's been a few years now and she still won't put it on. She thinks it's no big deal. Don't tell her about hijab. Stop talking to her about hijab altogether. What you do is you talk to her, or actually you don't talk to her, because what happens oftentimes is the people least effective with dawah are members of the family. Like they would much rather listen to a stranger and actually take their advice than listen to someone in their family. It's much harder for me to give dawah to my own cousins, because it's just Noman again, he's talking, it's something on YouTube or something, right? Because I'm just a guy from home. No big deal, right? So this is actually a problem. They can give dawah to the world, but guess what? They got to get somebody else's tape, somebody else's CD to put in the car when they're driving. I want to hear you, I hear you enough. Right? This happens. This even happened to Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. The whole city of Baghdad is coming to him to ask questions. His mother says, you don't know anything. I'm going somewhere else to find out what's the answer is. And where she used to go for the answer, that guy was a student of Abu Hanifa. So he would know the answer. He'd say, I'll do my research and get back to you. He'd come to Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah. He would say, tell her this is the answer, but don't tell her it was from me. And he'll go back, right? So the first thing is acknowledge that a lot of times religion, when you try to give it to your family, you have to be a little tactful. You have to be a little, have more strategy, basically. Find a really good speaker about the hereafter, the day of judgment. The biggest problem for your wife, first of all, is not hijab. Hijab is a symptom, not the disease. The disease is a weakness of iman. How do you strengthen iman? You strengthen iman with a reminder. What's the most powerful reminder? Qur'an. If you look at the ayat of reminder in the Qur'an, what are they always talking about? The hereafter and the destruction of the people in the past. This is the powerful reminder. People that didn't listen, look at what happened to them, look at what's going to happen to them, right? So, for example, a series on the hereafter, right? Somebody giving a really powerful khutbah on, how human beings have to struggle for salvation. A powerful reminder from Qur'an. If you make that a culture in the family, where every day, 15, 20 minutes, we're going to listen to something from the Qur'an in a powerful way. Right? There's plenty of speakers and resources available nowadays that you can listen to. Like, the Awlaki series on the hereafter is great, I think. And I know people that got off their mortgages after listening to that CD. They got out of riba. It's that powerful. So, take advantage of those kinds of resources and understand that you are not always the best means of da'wah to certain people. Certain people need to hear it from somewhere else. And, we can't make da'wah to everyone. There are some people we have an effect with, some people we're completely useless with. Right? So everybody has their audience. So inshallah ta'ala, that hopefully helps you with the situation of your spouse. And last thing I should say about that, my gut feeling is her problem isn't intellectual. Meaning it's not like she's not convinced it's important. It really is, she doesn't see the seriousness of obeying Allah in every last commandment. That's the real issue. Once that's resolved, hijab is going to come anyway. And among other things, inshallah ta'ala. Well done? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر.